Ambassador Velshara had seen many worlds in her 300 years of service to the Galactic Concordat, but Earth surprised her. The blue planet hung in the darkness of space like a jewel, its surface covered with swirling white clouds and vast oceans. The humans who greeted her delegation were smaller than most species, but they carried themselves with confidence. Their leader, Secretary General Martinez, smiled warmly and extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. "Welcome to Earth," Martinez said through the translation device. "We're honored to join the galactic community." The first 3 months went smoothly. Humans were eager to learn, quick to adapt, and surprisingly inventive. They asked thousands of questions about faster-than-light travel, energy systems, and medicine. Velshara found them charming, if a bit primitive. Their technology lagged behind the Concordat by several centuries, but they were enthusiastic students. Then everything changed. The Talon Imperium, a militant faction within the Concordat, decided to test humanity's worthiness. They believed that any species joining galactic society needed to prove their strength. Without warning, Talon warships appeared near Earth's moon and fired on the colony of New Armstrong. The attack lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 3,000 human colonists were dead. Velshara watched the news broadcast from Earth in horror. She expected immediate retaliation. Every species she knew would have assembled their fleet and challenged the Talons to honorable combat. The rules of engagement, ancient laws that governed all galactic warfare, were clear. When attacked, a species issued a formal challenge. Fleets met in open space. The battle decided the matter, but humans did something different. They went silent. For 2 weeks, there was no response from Earth. No fleet assembled. No challenge issued. The Talon Imperium celebrated their easy victory. Their news broadcasts mocked humanity's cowardice. They hide like prey animals. Talon Commander Krelvax announced, "They are unworthy of the stars." Then strange things began happening. A Talon listening post near the outer rim stopped transmitting. Search teams found it intact but empty. Every crew member had vanished. Their emergency beacons never activated. Security footage showed nothing unusual until the very end, when shadows seemed to move wrong in the corridors. A supply convoy disappeared between 2 jump points. 12 ships carrying food and ammunition for the Talon fleet simply vanished. No debris, no distress calls. Just gone. Officers began disappearing from their own vessels. A captain retired to his quarters and never emerged. When his crew forced the door open, they found his room empty. The only exit was through the locked door they had just opened. Krelvax reviewed the reports with growing unease. This wasn't war as he understood it. There were no fleet movements, no battles, no honor. The enemy remained invisible. His communication. Officers reported that listening posts throughout Talon space were going dark, one by one. Not destroyed, just offline. He ordered maximum security on his flagship, the Resolute Claw. Guards patrolled every corridor. Sensors swept constantly for intruders. Life support systems were monitored around the clock. He felt safe behind 5 levels of security and the strongest shields in the Talon fleet. That night, his communication array failed. Engineers rushed to repair it, but before they could, something else happened. The bridge lights flickered. When they stabilized, Krelvax saw them. 6 figures stood in his bridge, where moments before there had been nothing. They wore dark armor that seemed to absorb light. Their faces were hidden behind helmets with glowing visors. They appeared as if stepping out of thin air, their camouflage systems deactivating in perfect unison. The lead figure removed his helmet. He was human, with dark skin and calm eyes that held no anger, only determination. "I am Captain Williams of the Earth Special Operations Command," he said in perfect Talon language. "Your attack on New Armstrong was an act of war. We have responded accordingly." Krelvax reached for his weapon, but found his hand wouldn't move. Looking down, he saw a small device attached to his uniform, some kind of neural disruptor. All around the bridge, his crew stood frozen. "How did you get on my ship?" Krelvax demanded. "We've been aboard for 9 days," Williams replied. "We've mapped every system, documented every security protocol, and identified every weakness. We could have killed you at any time. We chose not to. This is against the rules of engagement." Krelvax shouted. "You cannot use deception. You cannot infiltrate. These are the gravest war crimes." Williams tilted his head. "We read your rules. They say we cannot target civilians. We haven't. They say we cannot use weapons of mass destruction without warning. We haven't. They say we must give you a chance to surrender. We're doing that now." He paused. "They don't say anything about how we reach the battlefield. You're cowards," Krelvax spat. "You won't face us in open combat." "We're survivors," Williams corrected. "And we're very, very good at it." He reactivated his helmet and gestured to his team. They moved to the communication console and uploaded a data package before Krelvax could stop them. "We're transmitting this to all Talon military installations," Williams said. "Inside, you'll find complete intelligence on every base, every ship, and every officer in your fleet. Guard rotations, security weaknesses, personal addresses. We know everything about you. We've known it for a week." The humans began fading from view as their camouflage reactivated. Williams's voice came from empty air. "Surrender, apologize, pay reparations for New Armstrong. Or we'll show you what humans do to species who kill our civilians." "We don't fight by your rules, Commander. We fight to win." Then they were gone, as if they had never been there at all. 2 hours later, Velshara received a copy of the data package. She opened it with trembling hands and found detailed information on every Talon installation in the galaxy. The final file was a video message from a human woman in military uniform. "Ambassador Velshara," the woman said. "I am Colonel Sarah Chung, representing Earth's government. We don't want war. We want peace. But if the Talon Imperium refuses to stand down, we will do what is necessary to protect our people. We know this approach seems brutal to you. We know it violates your sense of honor. But understand this. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We learned to survive against stronger predators. We learned to win unfair fights, because life gave us no choice." Chun's expression hardened. "The Talons have 24 hours to surrender. After that, we stop being gentle. Tell them the predators evolved to hunt in the dark, and we're very good hunters." The message ended. Velshara sat in silence, staring at the dark screen. For 10,000 years, the galaxy had fought by rules everyone understood. Humans had just changed everything, and she had no idea if that was humanity's salvation or the galaxy's doom. The emergency session of the Galactic Concordat Council convened within hours. Representatives from all 12 member species gathered. In the Great Chamber, their voices filling the space with heated argument. Velshara watched from her position as she tried to process what humanity had done. "This is an outrage," roared Krelvax, who had been summoned to testify. The Talon commander stood before the council, his scales flushed dark with anger. "They infiltrated my flagship. They used deception and lies. These are war crimes under the ancient laws." Council Speaker Zorthun raised one of his 6 arms for silence. The elderly harmonic spoke in his deep, resonant voice. "The Council will review the evidence calmly. Ambassador Velshara, you have studied humanity more than anyone here. Please explain what we are facing." Velshara rose slowly. She had spent the last 2 days reviewing everything humanity had sent them. The more she learned, the more disturbed she became. "Humanity fights differently than any species we have encountered," she began. Their military history spans thousands of years and includes tactics we have never seen. Guerrilla warfare, special operations, psychological warfare, espionage. They have refined the art of fighting enemies stronger than themselves. Cowards' tactics, Krelvax muttered. Survivors' tactics, Velshara corrected sharply. Earth is what we classify as a Class 7 death world. The gravity is high. The weather is violent. Predators are numerous. Humans didn't evolve as apex predators. They evolved as prey that learned to hunt. Every advancement they made came from necessity. She activated a holographic display showing human history. Images of ancient battles appeared. Humans fighting with primitive weapons against larger, stronger enemies. Then more recent conflicts, where small groups of humans defeated entire armies through cunning and strategy. They call it asymmetric warfare, Velshara continued. Fighting in ways that negate the enemy's advantages. They are masters of turning weakness into strength. It is still deception, another council member protested. The rules of engagement are clear. Warfare must be conducted with honor. Fleets meet in open space. Challenges are issued. The stronger side wins. The humans never violated the actual rules, Velshara said quietly. I checked. The rules prohibit targeting civilians. Humanity targeted only military personnel. The rules prohibit weapons of mass destruction without warning. Humanity used conventional infiltration and intelligence gathering. The rules require giving the enemy a chance to surrender. Humanity did exactly that. The spirit of the law matters more than the letter, Zorthon said. For 10,000 years, we have maintained civilization through honorable combat. If humanity's methods spread, chaos will follow. Velshara couldn't argue with that. She had the same fear. The council debated for hours. Finally, they agreed to summon a human representative to explain themselves. 2 days later, Colonel Sarah Chun arrived aboard a small human vessel. She walked into the council chamber wearing her uniform, her expression calm and professional. Colonel Chun, Zorthun began. You stand accused of introducing destabilizing warfare methods to the galaxy. How do you answer? Chun looked at each council member in turn before speaking. I understand your concern, but I need you to understand something about humanity. We're not warriors by nature. We're not conquerors. We're survivors. She activated her own holographic display, showing Earth's history. Images of early humans fleeing from massive predators. Communities struggling against harsh weather. Tribes fighting over scarce resources. Every advantage we developed came from necessity, Chun explained. We couldn't outrun the predators, so we learned to hide. We couldn't overpower them, so we learned to outsmart them. We couldn't win fair fights, so we learned to make fights unfair in our favor. For 200,000 years, survival meant being clever, adaptable, and willing to do whatever it took. That is precisely what concerns us, Zorthon said. Your willingness to do whatever it takes. Would you prefer we roll over and die? Chun asked sharply. The Talon Imperium murdered 3,000 of our civilians without warning or provocation. They did it to test us, as if we were animals in an arena. We responded by showing them we're not prey. We're predators who choose to live in peace until peace becomes impossible. Krelvax stood. You call yourselves predators? You hide in shadows like vermin. Chun turned to face him. Commander, your species evolved on a world where the strongest survived. You became apex predators. You're bigger than us, stronger than us, and your technology was centuries ahead of ours. In a fair fight, we'd lose. She smiled coldly. So we don't fight fair. We fight to win. That's not cowardice. That's intelligence. The council chamber erupted in argument. Half the members wanted to quarantine humanity immediately. The other half pointed out that humans had shown remarkable restraint. They could have killed everyone on Krelvax's ship. They didn't. What happens now? Valshara asked Chun during a recess. Will your people accept whatever judgment the council makes? Chun looked at her thoughtfully. Ambassador, we came to the stars hoping to find friends. We still hope for that. But if the galaxy decides we're too dangerous to exist, we'll do what we've always done. We'll survive. And anyone who tries to stop us will learn why humans have survived every extinction event our planet threw at us. Before Valshara could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A junior officer rushed into the chamber with news that turned her blood cold. The Talon, Imperium, had rejected the surrender demand. Instead, they were mobilizing their entire fleet. 200 dreadnoughts, the largest military formation in recorded history, were heading toward Earth. They intended to crush humanity once and for all in a proper battle. Chun received the news calmly. She tapped her communication device and spoke briefly. Then she addressed the council. The Talon fleet will reach the Sol system in 3 days. I've been authorized to share our defensive plans with the council. Not for approval. As a courtesy, what will you do? Zorthun asked. We'll show them what humans do when someone threatens our home, Chun said. We'll fight with every weapon we have. Every tactic we know. We offered peace. They chose war. Now they'll learn what that means. You cannot possibly defeat 200 dreadnoughts, Krelvac said. We will crush you with honor. Chun smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Commander, you still don't understand. We're not going to fight you with honor. We're going to fight you with everything we've learned in 200,000 years of surviving on a death world. She turned to address the full council. You wanted to see brutal? You wanted to see unstoppable? Fine, we'll show you. But remember, when this is over, that you forced our hand. She left the chamber. Valshara rushed after her, catching up in the corridor. Colonel, please. There must be another way. If you escalate this, the council will turn against humanity forever. Chun stopped and looked at her. For the first time, Valshara saw past the military discipline to the emotion beneath. Fear, determination, sadness. Ambassador, I have 3 brothers. My youngest brother lives on New Armstrong. Lived, past tense. He died when the Talons attacked. He was 23 years old and studying xenobiology because he was excited to meet alien species. Chun's voice hardened. So no, there is no other way. The Talons chose violence. Now they'll get exactly what they asked for. I just hope the rest of the galaxy is smart enough to learn from their mistake. 3 days later, the Talon fleet arrived at Earth's solar system. They entered in perfect formation, 200 massive warships ready for glorious battle. Valshara watched the feeds from a monitoring station, her heart's pounding with dread. The Talon Admiral broadcast his challenge across all frequencies. Humans, face us in honorable combat or be destroyed as cowards. The response came from Admiral Marcus Joe, commander of Earth's Defense Forces. His voice was cold and precise. You want to see what humans do when you threaten our home? Look around you. The Talon sensors detected movement. Thousands of objects that had appeared to be asteroids suddenly lit up with engine signatures. They weren't asteroids at all. Welcome to total war, Joe said. Don't say we didn't warn you. The Talon fleet's sensors went wild as thousands of objects accelerated toward them. Admiral Kreshtar of the Talon Armada watched his tactical display in confusion. These weren't warships. They were too small, too numerous. His weapons officers tried to lock onto targets, but there were too many. Mines, his tactical officer reported. Autonomous weapons platforms. They're everywhere. Destroy them, Kreshtar ordered. All batteries, fire at will. The Talon fleet opened fire. Their massive energy weapons cut through space, destroying dozens of the small objects. But for every one destroyed, 10 more appeared from different vectors. They had been hiding throughout the entire outer system, dormant and cold, invisible to sensors until they activated. The first wave hit the Talon formation's left flank. The small objects were drones, each carrying shaped charges designed specifically to breach capital ship hulls. They swarmed over the dreadnoughts like insects, too many to target individually. Explosions rippled across 3 warships as the drones found weak points in their armor. "Reform the line," Kreshtar commanded. "Activate point defense systems." But the drones were only the first problem. His sensors detected new contacts at extreme range. Objects moving at impossible speeds. Moving at relativistic velocities. "Kinetic weapons!" his sensor officer screamed. "Impact in 30 seconds." Kreshtar felt ice in his veins. Relativistic missiles traveled at a significant fraction of light speed. At those velocities, even a small object carried devastating kinetic energy. And these weren't small. They were the size of small asteroids. When were they launched? He demanded. "Based on their trajectory and speed, approximately 4 months ago, sir." 4 months. The humans had prepared this ambush months before the fleet even mobilized. They had predicted this battle before it began. The kinetic projectiles struck before shields could fully compensate. 3 Talon dreadnoughts simply ceased to exist, torn apart by impacts that released more energy than fusion bombs. Debris from the destroyed ships tore through the formation, damaging several more vessels. Kreshtar recovered from his shock and rallied his forces. They were still the largest battle fleet in the galaxy. They could still win this. "All ships, activate combat formations. Prepare to advance on the human homeworld." The fleet began moving deeper into the system, still firing at the drone swarms. They lost 5 more ships to the relentless small craft attacks, but the casualties were acceptable. They would overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer numbers. Then the fleet's navigation systems began failing. One by one, ships reported errors in their guidance computers. Communications became unreliable. Weapons targeting showed phantom contacts. Kreshtar realized with horror what was happening. Cyber attack. "The humans are in our systems." His technical officers worked frantically, but they couldn't find the source of the intrusion. The malware was too sophisticated, too deeply embedded. Ships began falling out of formation as their automated systems malfunctioned. Aboard the dreadnought Crimson Fang, Commander Vrelsax watched his engineering displays with growing panic. His ship's reactor was heating up beyond safe parameters. The cooling systems wouldn't respond to commands. "Manual override," he shouted. "Cut power to the reactor." His engineers rushed to comply, but before they could reach the manual controls, the doors to the reactor chamber sealed. The locking mechanism had been activated remotely. From inside the reactor room, someone was controlling the ship's most vital systems. The security cameras showed movement in the chamber. Figures in dark armor, human figures, working at the control panels. They had been inside his ship the entire time, waiting. Vrelsax grabbed the intercom. "Intruders in engineering. Security teams respond." But his security teams never made it. Throughout the ship, humans emerged from hiding places they should never have been able to reach. They moved with precision, targeting key systems, life support controls, weapons arrays, communications hubs. They didn't kill anyone unless attacked. They simply disabled the ship piece by piece. Similar scenes played out across the Talon fleet. Humans had infiltrated dozens of ships during the 3 days it took the fleet to reach Earth. They had hidden in cargo bays, crawled through maintenance tunnels, and used camouflage technology to avoid detection. Now they struck simultaneously, crippling ships from within. Kreshtar watched his fleet falling apart. 40 ships disabled by cyber warfare. 20 more crippled by internal sabotage. 15 destroyed by drones and kinetic strikes. And he still hadn't seen a single human warship. Where is their fleet? He demanded. Where are their dreadnoughts? His sensor officer's voice was small. Sir, I don't think they have dreadnoughts. They're not fighting the way we expected. As if responding to his question, human vessels finally appeared. They weren't massive dreadnoughts. They were small, fast frigates that emerged from behind the moon and Mars, attacking in coordinated wolf packs. They struck at damaged Talon ships, fired their weapons, and vanished before the Talons could return fire effectively. Hit and run. Strike and fade. Kreshtar felt something he had never experienced in battle before. Fear. Not for his own life, but fear of an enemy he couldn't understand. How did you fight shadows? How did you defeat an opponent who refused to face you directly? The answer came from Earth itself. The moon, which his sensors had identified as a natural satellite, suddenly opened like a flower. Panels retracted to reveal weapon emplacements. Hundreds of them. Rail guns. Missile batteries. Energy cannons. The humans had turned their own moon into a fortress. Admiral Joe's voice came across all frequencies. You wanted to see brutal? This is just the beginning. Every ship in your fleet has been tagged by our infiltration teams. We know which ones are damaged and which are functional. We know your battle plans because we've been reading your encrypted communications for 2 days. We know your supply situation, your morale levels, and your fleet composition better than you do. The moon fired. Thousands of missiles launched simultaneously, each one targeted at specific vulnerable points on specific ships. The Talon fleet tried to shoot them down, but their targeting systems were still compromised. The missiles struck home, and another 10 dreadnoughts fell out of formation, crippled but not destroyed. You came to destroy our home, Joe continued. You brought 200 ships to kill billions of civilians. Did you think we would line up our own ships and fight you fairly? Did you think we would give you targets to shoot at? We're humans. We fight smart. Kreshtar knew defeat when he saw it. His fleet had been cut in half without destroying a single human world, without even engaging in the kind of battle he understood. He reached for his communication controls. I request parley under the rules of engagement, he transmitted. Denied, Joe replied immediately. You had your chance at parley before you mobilized. You chose war. Now you surrender unconditionally, or we continue. You cannot demand unconditional surrender. It is not honorable. Neither was attacking New Armstrong, Joe said coldly. You have 1 hour to decide. After that, we stop disabling ships and start destroying them. And Admiral, I want you to understand something. Every weapon you've seen so far is conventional. We haven't used our experimental systems yet. We haven't deployed our biological warfare division. We haven't released our nanotechnology weapons. We've been gentle because we hoped you'd surrender. Don't make us stop being gentle. Valshara, watching from her observation station, felt sick. She had never seen anything like this. The Talons were being systematically dismantled by an enemy they couldn't touch. It wasn't a battle. It was a demonstration. Kreshtar sat in his command chair, staring at his tactical display. His fleet was broken. His honor was shattered. But his crew was still alive, and that meant something. With trembling hands, he activated his fleet-wide channel. All Talon vessels, this is Admiral Kreshtar. Cease all hostile actions. Power down weapons. Prepare to be boarded. We surrender. The words felt like poison in his mouth. But he said them anyway, because the alternative was watching his entire fleet die for nothing. Joe's response was brief. Surrender accepted. Maintain your current positions. Human boarding teams will secure your vessels. Any resistance will be met with immediate force. You chose this fight, Admiral. Remember that. Across the solar system, the battle that wasn't really a battle ended. The Talon Imperium's greatest fleet had been defeated without destroying a single human installation. Valshara pulled up the casualty reports and felt a chill run through her. Despite the overwhelming defeat, fewer than 10,000 Talons had died. The humans could have killed them all. They chose not to. That restraint was somehow more terrifying than total destruction would have been, because it meant humanity's brutality wasn't mindless savagery. It was controlled, calculated, precise. And if they could be this brutal while holding back, what would they do if they stopped restraining themselves? The trial began 2 weeks later. The Galactic Concordat Council chamber filled with representatives from every species, all gathered to decide humanity's fate. Valshara stood as the primary witness, having observed everything from first contact to the battle's end. Half the council wanted humanity expelled or quarantined immediately. The other half couldn't ignore that humans had shown restraint even in victory. The debate raged for 3 days before Colonel Sarah Chun and Ambassador Marcus Joe were finally called to testify. Chun walked to the center of the chamber with her brother beside her. The Admiral had returned from Earth's defense to stand trial alongside the woman who had represented humanity throughout the crisis. They stood together, calm and composed, while the council debated their species' future. Colonel Chun, Council Speaker Zorthun began. Admiral Joe, you stand accused of introducing destabilizing warfare methods to galactic civilization. You have violated the spirit, if not the letter, of the rules of engagement. You have demonstrated tactics that threaten 10,000 years of controlled, honorable warfare. How do you answer these charges? Chun stepped forward. With respect, Speaker, I answer them with facts. May I present evidence? Zorthun gestured permission. Chun activated a holographic display showing casualty figures from the recent battle alongside historical data from galactic conflicts. The Battle of Sol involved 200 Talon dreadnoughts against Earth's defensive forces. Total Talon casualties, 9,873 personnel. Total ships destroyed, 27. She paused to let the numbers sink in. Now compare this to the last major fleet engagement in galactic history. The Harmonic Crystalline War, 300 years ago. A similar-sized fleet engagement resulted in 96,000 casualties and 84 ships destroyed on the losing side. She changed the display to show more historical battles. The Vorthak Suppression, 18 ships against 42 defenders. Total casualties, 200,000. The Talon Expansion Wars averaged 47,000 casualties per major engagement. Every battle in your history books shows the same pattern. Your honorable warfare kills more people than our brutal methods. Murmurs rippled through the council chamber. Chun continued before anyone could interrupt. You call our tactics dishonorable. But let's examine honor. We infiltrated enemy ships, yes. We used cyber warfare and sabotage, yes. But look at what we didn't do. We didn't target civilians. We didn't use weapons of mass destruction. We didn't execute prisoners. We disabled ships rather than destroying them whenever possible. Every Talon prisoner of war is currently being held in facilities that meet or exceed the standards set by our own Geneva Conventions. She pulled up footage of the POW camps. Captured Talon soldiers were alive, healthy, receiving medical care. They had adequate food, clean water, and even recreational activities. The council members stared in disbelief. This concept seems revolutionary to you, Chun observed. Treating enemy combatants humanely. But it's standard practice for humanity. We're brutal in war because we must win. But we're civilized in victory because we choose to be. Admiral Joe spoke for the first time. I want to be very clear about something. Everything we did to the Talon fleet, we did reluctantly. We didn't want this war. We tried diplomacy. We warned them multiple times. When they refused to back down, we did exactly what we said we would do. We fought to protect our home using every advantage we possess. And those advantages threaten the entire galactic order. One of the council members protested. If every species adopts your methods, civilization will collapse into chaos. Will it? Chun asked. Or will it become more civilized? Think about what I just showed you. Our methods result in fewer casualties. Our approach to prisoners is more humane than yours. Our warfare is more precise. We don't destroy cities from orbit. We don't glass entire planets. We strike at military targets with surgical accuracy. Valshara felt compelled to speak. But Colonel, your methods work precisely because no one else uses them. They're effective due to surprise and unfamiliarity. If warfare becomes a contest of deception and infiltration, how long before trust itself becomes impossible? How long before diplomatic missions suspected of being intelligence operations? How long before the bonds that hold civilization together dissolve? Chun met her eyes. Ambassador, you raise a valid concern. But consider the alternative. The Talon Imperium attacked us because they saw us as weak. They thought they could test us without consequences. Under your system of honorable warfare, species are judged by the size of their fleets and the strength of their weapons. Those who can't match the established powers are prey. We're showing the galaxy that there's another way to be strong. Through deception and shadows, Krelvax interjected bitterly. The former commander had been released as part of the prisoner exchange, though his career was destroyed. Through cowardice. Through intelligence, Chan corrected firmly. Commander, your species evolved on a world where might made right. The biggest, strongest predators dominated. You brought that worldview to the stars. But humanity evolved differently. We survived through cooperation, through innovation, through our ability to adapt. We're not cowards. We're survivors who learned that the smartest predator lives longer than the strongest. Admiral Joe stepped forward. The Council needs to make a decision. Either humanity is accepted as a full member of the Concordat with the right to maintain our military doctrine, or we're not. If we're expelled, we'll return to Earth and maintain our independence. If we're attacked again, we'll defend ourselves again. But understand this, we're not going away. We're not changing who we are. You can work with us or against us, but you can't ignore us. The Council debated through the night. Valshara participated, though her thoughts were conflicted. She understood the Council's fear. Humanity had changed the rules. They had shown that conventional military might could be defeated by unconventional tactics. If this knowledge spread, the balance of power would shift dramatically. But she also couldn't ignore the casualty figures. Humans were more effective, more efficient, and despite their brutal reputation, actually killed fewer people than traditional warfare. They were terrifying, not because they were mindless killers, but because they were intelligent enough to calibrate their violence precisely. Finally, a compromise emerged. It came from the most unexpected source. A junior representative from the Harmonic Collective who proposed something radical. What if? The young Harmonic named Sorrelin suggested. We don't reject humanity's methods, but instead learn from them selectively, not to make all warfare like theirs, but to create specialized forces capable of responding to asymmetric threats. The chamber fell silent. Zorthan turned to examine the young representative. Explain. Humanity's tactics are effective against conventional forces, Sorrelin said. But they also demonstrated restraint. What if humanity shares their knowledge for defensive purposes only? Train small, elite units from each species in special operations. Not to replace our fleets, but to supplement them. To give us options beyond fleet-to-fleet combat. Chun and Joe exchanged glances. Chun spoke carefully, We would consider such an arrangement, but only with strict ethical oversight. These tactics can be used for terrible purposes. We would need guarantees that they are used responsibly. The debate continued for days, but eventually, a framework emerged. Humanity would gain full membership in the Concordat with the right to maintain their military structure. In exchange, they would establish a special operations training institute, sharing their knowledge with carefully selected candidates from other species. The training would emphasize not just tactics, but the ethical framework that governed when and how to use them. Velshara was appointed as the first director of Concordat Unconventional Warfare, responsible for oversight of the new program. She accepted reluctantly, knowing she was the bridge between humanity's methods and galactic traditions. 5 years passed. Velshara stood in the observation deck of the Special Operations Training Center, watching mixed species teams run exercises. Humans worked alongside crystallines, harmonics, and even a few reformed talents. They moved through simulated environments, using stealth and strategy instead of brute force. Colonel Chun joined her at the window. She had retired from active duty, but served as an instructor at the center. Having second thoughts? Chun asked. Every day, Velshara admitted. But then I look at the results. Last month, a slavers' cartel attacked a colony. 5 years ago, we would have mobilized a fleet, engaged them in open combat, and accepted heavy casualties on both sides. Instead, a joint human crystalline special operations team infiltrated their command ship, disabled their fleet, and liberated 50,000 slaves without a single civilian death. Progress, Chun said with a slight smile. Perhaps Velshara turned to face her. Your people changed everything, Colonel. You showed us that warfare doesn't have to be about honor or glory. It can be about effectiveness and precision. But you also showed us something more important. What's that? That brutality isn't about how much damage you cause. It's about being willing to do what's necessary when the stakes are absolute. And that true strength includes knowing when to hold back. An alert interrupted their conversation. A priority message from Concordat Intelligence. Velshara read it quickly, her expression darkening. What is it? Chun asked. Long-range probes have detected a massive fleet beyond Concordat space. The Eternal Dominion. They're a xenophobic empire we've had minimal contact with. Intelligence estimates they outnumber the entire Concordat military by 50 to 1. They're mobilizing for conquest. Chun's smile vanished. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe less. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Chun pulled out her communication device. I need to contact Admiral Joe. He needs to